Hi everyone, good evening. Welcome back to the reading practice sessions. Thank you, Reena. Yeah, I should be welcoming myself back rather. I'm also feeling good to be back. And I think there are lesser students. I'm good, Shivali. Thank you so much. Much better now. Thank you for your concern. I missed you all too. I missed taking the classes. Thank you so much. I was not going to take the class today first, but sorry. Just was a bit concerned if I'll be able to manage, but then I thought I should go back. I'll feel good. I'll feel better by meeting you all. Hi, new students. Thank you so much for coming. So we have 30 students. How many students do we have daily? Okay. So here we have 45, 50, okay. So let's begin with today's test. We are doing test number 86 and the same instructions again. Please do participate. Please time yourselves. 2.5 minutes for reading, writing questions, 2 minutes for reorders and reading questions. You have to put your answers in the chat box. I suggest all of you to do this because when I see wrong answers, it gives me ideas and hints to talk about the right ones and to explain why the wrong ones are wrong. So try maximum participation. Try timing yourself for each and every question. And for every question, we will discuss it 2 times. After that, if there is anything that we have missed, please write that in the chat box about your doubts and we will talk about them. So here you have your first question and 2.5 minutes to solve it, and then I'll wait for your answers in the chat box. Okay, should be done by now. Not many very good answers. But this was a confusing question. Confusing plus based on vocab, so it's okay. Let's see what are the answers. Current rates of plastic emissions may dash effects that we will not be able to reverse, argues a new study. So with may comes first form of verb with all the modals can, may, could, would, should, will, shall. All the modals come with first form of verb without s. And we have trigger, cause, lead, and develop. So all of them are first forms without s. That means the answer will be based on context. They are saying the current rates of plastic may dash effects that we will not be able to reverse. We will means these things are yet to happen. The effects are yet to come. So they may trigger effects, cause effects. Lead comes with lead to. And develop is a word which we use in positive sense. We cannot use develop with negative effects because here the effects are negative because they are the effects of plastic emissions. So plastic emissions cannot have positive effects. So develop is a word that we more use in positive sense. So we are left with cause and trigger, which was based on academic strength. Cause is bit common. Trigger is its more academic, better academic version. So if ever you have a choice between cause and trigger, you should select trigger over cause. So you can note it down. It's a very common word that we can find in exams very commonly. So out of cause and trigger, we will select trigger, which means cause only. According to the authors, plastic pollution is a global threat and actions to reduce emissions of plastic to the environment are the rational policy response. The sentence is absolutely complete and after the blank we have a verb. Whenever the sentence is complete, even if there is no blank, the sentence is complete. And after the blank we have a verb. Then in the blank we have to put adverb always, ly. So greatly, sharply, literally, or drastically. So again, all four adverbs we have to go with context. Greatly is a positive word, which we use in positive context. Sharply means suddenly. When we want to emphasize on the thing that whatever happened, it was very sudden, then we say sharp. Literally is actually, really, and drastically is used when we want to say big and very impactful thing, something which makes a difference. Here we started the sentence saying plastic pollution is a global threat and actions to reduce emissions of plastic to the environment. And what kind of reduction we want to make? We want to make sudden reduction in plastic emissions or we want to make big reduction in plastic emissions. So we don't want to make it should be sudden, like now in 5 minutes there will be plastic emission, or maybe in one day there will be plastic emission. That will be sudden. We want to make it big so that this global threat is reduced. So we will say drastically reduce means reduce at a very big scale. That is called drastic. Plastic is found dash on the planet and almost everybody has done it correct because it was easy to make sense because it's general knowledge that plastic is found everywhere on the planet from deserts, mountains, oceans, and everywhere. As of 2016, estimates of global emissions of plastic to the world's lakes, rivers, and oceans range from this metric tons per year, with a similar amount emitted dash land yearly. So they talked about how much plastic we have in rivers and oceans, and the same amount of plastic emissions is dash land. So land will be on land. We don't have on here. In is not possible. We don't want to go inside the land to land, but we have onto and on both are almost same. Rather, onto is more academic version of on. If you have on and onto both given, then there is a slight difference. Onto comes when you have movement as well, like we did this difference in the grammar videos, in and into, on and onto. But we don't have on, so we can go with onto. That's fine. Onto land yearly. These estimates are expected to almost double by 2025. Plastic is dash in our society. We can always eliminate the ly words. They don't make any difference in choosing our answer. So you can always not read the ly words. Plastic is dash in our society and it leaks out in the environment everywhere. With is comes ed form of verb or ing. Ing if it is active voice, this is passive voice. Plastic is feeding in our society doesn't make sense. So we have to go with ed forms. Plastic is settled. Settled again is a positive word. Like life is settled. So we use settled in a good way. Life is going good. Plastic is established or plastic is ingrained. Now this was again based on context. Established and ingrained both means the same. What is more academic is what is less heard, and we have heard the word established more than ingrained, so ingrained will be the answer. Ingrained means the same thing, that it's deeply rooted, it's deeply present, it's deeply established. Established is more specifically used with when we talk about companies established, businesses established. This is not that sense. So it's better to say it's deeply ingrained, means deeply found everywhere and deeply rooted everywhere. So that would be the meaning of ingrained here. So I'll repeat everything once again and then you can ask your doubts. The first one was out of trigger and cause. Both of them mean the same. Trigger is more academic, so that is why we went with trigger. Lead comes with to and develop comes with positive things. The second one, we needed adverb because reduce is a verb. Greatly is again positive. Sharply is used when we want to emphasize suddenness. Literally is actually, and drastically is when we want to say something very big is going to happen, which makes a difference. Then third was everywhere. Plastic is found everywhere. Then they explain everywhere from this to that place. On and onto, because we generally say on land, but we did not have on, so we can go with onto. That means the same. Third, and the last one was with is comes ed or ing. That depends upon active and passive. If it is passive statement, ed will come, ing won't come in passive. So feeding cannot be the answer, and out of established and ingrained, ingrained is more suitable because we want to say it's very firmly present everywhere. That is the meaning of ingrained. Established can be said as a synonym of ingrained, but it has specific uses which we generally use established for. And settled is used in a more positive way. Plastic found everywhere, there's nothing positive in this. Right, so these are the answers. Anybody who has any doubt, anything that we did not talk about and you are confused, please put that in the chat box. Is it all good with everyone? No questions? So it's a grammatical rule, Muhammad. If it is active voice, then with helping verbs, we put ing. If it is passive voice, then with active voice, we put ed form of verb. So please go through the concepts of active, passive. That will make it more clear to you. But in active voice, with helping verbs, we use ing. And in passive voice, with helping verbs, we use ed form. All right. So here you have your question number 2. Two and a half minutes to solve this and then post your answers, please. All right, should be done. Anybody left to post the answer? Good, well done. On shows position beyond. Fighting on land means like on land, in air, in water. That would be the meaning of on here. Let's look at the answers. Britain and France engaged in the French and Indian War, battling dash land in North America. So they were battling. The sentence or the paragraph is not about where were they battling. The paragraph is about what were they battling for, why were they battling. So it will be they were battling over land. Haven't you heard anybody saying, why are you fighting over silly things? So over means, why are you fighting for silly things? Means the reason is silly thing. So you use over in that case, not on or in or with. Similarly, here we'll say battling over land because land is the reason they were fighting for. And how do we get to know about this? By reading the next statements. After the British won the war, they gained dash of France's North American territories. The territories is the places. Territories would be the areas. That means they were fighting for land. They were fighting to get the territories. So they gained dash of France's North American territories. Whenever we have a blank before of, we need to put a noun in that case. So the question is, what did they gain? They gain what of the territories? As I said, territories would be areas. Is there any attention of area? Is there attention of Sydney that if two countries are fighting and they can take attention of Sydney? Possession, popularity, or charge? So when they are fighting for a place, it would be possession. Possession means control, that who's going to have control over Sydney. Sydney is a place. You cannot take popularity over Sydney, or you cannot take charge over Sydney. Charge is used, charge and control are two different words. Control means that who will make rules, who will form the government. Whereas charge is just like to say who is in charge of this classroom, or who is in charge of the manager kind of thing is more in charge, and possession is in your control. So they gained control of the territories east of this river up dash this point. The British had left the American colonies mostly on their own. So up comes with a lot of words. Up until is a collocation when you talk about time, then up until come together. Up through comes when you have a process written after the blank, then you can say up through. Like you can say up through these stages or up through these years, because years will be so many. But when you have just one time given, then you go with up until. Up until basically means till this point. There is no collocation saying up before this point. It is completely based on context that they were talking about before the time or after the point, after the time. Up as far as this point, as far as cannot come with up. So we have point. Point is not a process. Point is not continuity. Point means one kind of one point of time. So that's why we'll go with up until, which basically means till this point. The British had left the American colonies on their own. But after that, the Great Britain began to exert more control over the colonies. So even by reading this complete passage, we come to know that what is the topic? Why are they fighting for? They are fighting to get the control over the colonies, which earlier they were not having. They had left the colonies on their own, but then later on, they started to have control over the colonies. The French and Indian War put the British Crown in debt in order to increase revenues for the cost of defending the expanding British Empire. Britain taxed the colonies. They laid Sugar Act, and 1 year later Stamp Act. Colonists protested the added taxes. So obviously when there are a lot of taxes by the government, people protest it. The Stamp Act was repealed, In another effort to raise money and dash its authority over the colonies, Britain established the Townshend Act in 1767. The same kind of language they are already used. They exert control over the colonies, and here they have dash authority over the colonies. The answer will be again exert. Exert means apply. If it's a new word for you, they can understand this, that maybe you did not know the meaning of exert. That's why they have used it earlier, so that you can read this sentence and you can understand the meaning, that how can we use the word exert. Exert means apply. Exert is particularly very specifically used with force, pressure, control, and authority. These are the four words, because these are not the things that we apply. Apply is more like apply the ointment on the wound. We can physically apply that. But control, authority, force are not physical things. They are intangible things. So with intangible things, when we want to say apply, we go with the word exert in that case. So authority is also intangible. So we'll say apply the authority, we'll say exert the authority. Use is again used with very common things, like use the bread and use the butter or something like that, with things. And employ is a word that we use with resources or human beings, employ people. This series of acts placed taxes on tea, lead, paint, paper, glass, and all the things they taxed. The acts dash through violence. So acts are plural. We are in past tense. All this is happening in 1767. So it cannot be present tense. So we can easily eliminate the present tenses. Are is used in present. Have is used in present. Will be is used in future, but we want past tense. So these acts were resisted without any doubt. Simply looking at the tense, we can put the answer. These acts were resisted, means people stood against these acts through violence, refusal to pay. So these were the things they did to show their protest. Right, so these are the answers. We'll go through it once again. When we are fighting for something, then we use the word over. Over is, this is the reason for the fight. Second is, we cannot take popularity or attention of a piece of land. We can take possession. Possession means control. Charge won't be the better word, Muhammad. As I said, charge is just temporary thing. Charge has nothing. A person who has the charge does not have the liberty or the authority to control it completely. But the word possession means something which is completely in your control. You can do whatever you want with that piece of land. So whenever in past times there used to be wars between countries for a piece of land, like nowadays we are having war, Russia and Ukraine. Why is Russian forces invading Ukraine? They want to take Ukraine in their possession. You might have heard this word in news also. They don't say we want to take charge over Ukraine. No, they want to take it in their possession. They want to have their control. So possession is used in that sense. Up until together is used when you have time written after. Through is used when you have process, means a series of steps written after. And exert, because exert is a word which comes in place of apply when you're talking about intangible things. And last one was simply based on tense. We needed past tense and there was only one option in past. So there's no point to consider the other options, which are present and future tenses. Right? Possession would still be better because possession is more academic than control. Any other doubts? Anybody? Any questions? No worries. About in the first one, were battling about land, for land, over land, because as I said, that's the reason for the fight. Okay, so question number 3 for you, 2.5 minutes, and then post your answers, please. All right, should be done by now. When do we use the word about? Like think about photosynthesis. What are you thinking about? About is in relation to something, in relation to basically. Even if you don't know the meaning of wonder, but still you should know the meaning of a desert. Can you say about a desert mostly anywhere in the world and eventually you will notice rocks there? Is it thinking about a desert and you will see rocks? That's not possible, right? So about is more related to thought process kind of things. Anyways, wander around is the right answer because wander means when you roam around a place without any specific purpose, like you're not going specifically anywhere, you're just having a walk, a stroll, or just having a look around. That is wander, aimlessly, without any specific purpose in mind. So that is how we use wander around, stroll around, around generally comes with wander. So on is not possible because on a desert we cannot go on a desert, we can go in the desert. About used for thinking, and beyond means out of the limit, more than the limit. So beyond is used when you cross the limit, then you use the word beyond. It can be any kind of limit, like we say beyond the universe means out of the boundary of the universe. That is how we use the word beyond. So wander around the desert means if you just go around, walk in the desert, you will see rocks there, especially where the sun shines most brightly and water trickles down or dew gathers. In some spots, if you are lucky, you might dash upon ancient art carved into the stone. So in some spots, like when you're having a walk, when you're strolling around, you might dash upon, step upon art, stumble, walk upon, or keep upon. So having a walk, we cannot keep upon anything or walk upon. It will be stumble upon. Stumble basically is a word which means when you're walking and suddenly our foot gets stuck to something and we are about to fall. That is called stumbling. But here stumble is used to emphasize suddenness, that maybe when you're just casually having a roam around, you can suddenly see something which is very rare, something which is actually art. That is stumble upon. For years, however, researchers have understood more about the petrogels than the mysterious dark stain called rock varnish in which they were drawn. In particular, science has yet to come to a dash about where rock varnish, which is usually manganese, that where it comes from. So science has yet to come to a, with a and the comes a noun. Science does not assume things. Science cannot come to an assumption, and moreover, for assumption, we need an. Science has yet to come to a development, conclusion, or deduction. Deduction is to, like deduction in the salary, that has nothing to do with science. It should be conclusion, means a result. Science till now it doesn't have a definite answer. That means conclusion. Now scientists at this university, at this institute, think they have an answer. According to a recent paper in Proceedings, this academy, rock varnish is left dash by microbial communities that use manganese. So left comes with left out is a word, left behind is also a word, left after, left ahead are no words, not collocations obviously. Left out means when you say that I feel left out in the party, I felt left out in the party, means nobody was talking to you and you were feeling alone. That is how we use the word left out. But left behind is that it comes from microbial communities. They do some kind of process and this is left behind that process. That rock varnish is left behind by these communities that use manganese to dash against the punishing desert sun. So these communities, they use manganese for what purpose? To defend against means to protect themselves. To prevent is not to do something, prevent. To support against, but why will this support something which is negative? Punishing desert sun is punishing is a negative word, so we cannot support and we cannot preserve against the sun. So it will be defend against. Defend means protect themselves. Like we have defense forces. We say the army will defend the country. What is the meaning of defend? Save, protect. Prevent is to avoid doing something. That's how we use the word prevent. So walk around, stroll around, roam around, or wander around. We use around with all these words. Stumble upon means to suddenly get stuck by someone, something. Science has not reached to a conclusion means science does not have a final word till now. And left behind kind of collocation, and defend means to protect against something which is negative. Yes, it's a good method. Elimination is a really good method that even if you don't know the meanings, you can select that word by just looking at the other words. It doesn't make sense. Like in the second one, step upon, walk upon, or keep upon doesn't make sense. So could have selected stumble even without knowing the meaning, because these kind of situations will be there in the exam where there will be a lot of words whose meanings we will not know, and we cannot expect that somebody is going to come and tell us the meaning. So elimination is a really good strategy. It will help you at a lot of places in the exam. So do practice it. So last one, there was a negative statement given that these communities, they use manganese against the negative thing. So against negative, we have to do something good to protect ourselves from negative. Prevent is not to do something. So how can we say that communities use manganese to prevent against? Prevent is you did not do anything. So how can you save yourself against something? So prevent is don't do that. Prevent that doing that thing. But we wanted protect here, not prevent. So protect means defend. All right. Deepak, is it fine now? Okay. Okay, so we have question number 4 for reading writing, 2.5 minutes, and then post your answers, please. Do we use the word as with ing? Have you ever framed a sentence saying regarding as? Even if we don't have any sentence with us, you can just look at these two words. Have you ever seen this thing written regarding as, or you have always seen written regarded as? These are some things which you should not focus too much on the content. Rely more on what English you have read, you have learned, you have seen in your lives, and you have spoken. Because those things are not wrong, which you have been learning all these years, they will always be correct. There are two ways in which the current dash in demands for the recognition of identities can be looked at. Generally, looking at the word demand, we say increase in demand, rise in demand. These are the words that we use with demand, because demand increases or decreases, demand rises or demand falls. We don't say flowing in demands, or we don't say upflow in demands. Flow is not the word that we use for demand. But yes, increase or upsurge, both are same. What is more academic? Upsurge means increase only. Upsurge means rise or increase. So it's a better academic version of increase and rise, and we will go with the most academic word always. So the current upsurge in demands for the recognition of identities can be looked at. On the positive side, the efforts by certain population groups to assert their identity dash as liberation movements. Some of you have written regarding, are regarding, or was regarding. We don't use as with ing, it is used with ed form. So ings will be eliminated. And we have regard as or can be regarded as. Regard cannot come because we need a helping verb or a modal. We don't have is, am, are, was, were, can, will, shall, anything. If we don't put that, the efforts by certain population groups to assert their identity regard as liberation movements will be wrong English. We need are regarded, was regarded, were regarded, is, am, are, something to make it correct English. So it will be these. Basically, it was the efforts can be regarded as liberation movements. Rest of the words were not important. You had to match your answer with efforts. So always find out what is the noun of the sentence. If you find the noun, you will be at a better position to match it with the options. So the efforts can be regarded as liberation movements. Challenging dash and injustice. Injustice is a noun which is negative. So we also need a noun which should be negative. Depression is a noun and negative. Oppression is also noun and negative. Justice is positive. Dictatorial is not a noun. So we have two nouns which are negative. What matches with injustice? Depression or oppression? So oppression more matches with injustice because it is of the same category. Oppression is when somebody rules over you in a very harsh way, that you are not given your rights, you're not given your basic rights again. So that's called oppression, when there is a lot of, what is that called? Harm, a lot of harm is done by the ruler or by the government. That is called oppression. So challenging oppression, whereas depression is more used in the financial terms, but here injustice has nothing to do with finance. So let's go with oppression. What these groups are doing may accordingly be seen as legitimate attempts to escape from this state of subjugation and enjoy a certain measure of dignity. On the dash, however, militant action. They started with on the positive side. Now they have used however, means they're going to say the negative side. So on the negative side, what are the connectors we have? We have on the downside, we have on the other hand, but we have downside here. So we'll go with the connector on the downside. Militant action for recognition tends to make such groups more deeply entrenched. The assertion of identity then starts turning into self-absorption and isolation, and is dashed to slide into intolerance of others and towards ideas of ethnic cleansing. And is dashed to slide and is causing to slide, affected, liable, or guilty. We don't need past tense because the sentence is in present tense. The assertion of identity then starts. So there's no requirement of past tense, and they haven't used ing form starting, they haven't used, so we will also not use causing. So dash to slide, liable is a word that we generally use with to. Liable to means likely to. This is about to happen. This is the most possible thing to happen. That is how we say likely to or liable to. Guilty to slide into, you are not guilty to go into intolerance. So it will be liable. Pitfall can be used as drawback, disadvantage. That can be the synonym of pitfall. Means pitfall can be the synonym of those words. But we need a connector, which we have also have a connector saying on the contrary, on the downside, on the other hand. That's it. Or we have in contrast to show opposite side. Guilty generally comes with for. I'm guilty for what I did. For, I think, is the best preposition that we can use with guilty. Right, so these are the answers. Upsurge and increase are same. Upsurge is more academic. As is used with ed form, not ing, so it will be efforts can be regarded as this. Third one, we need a negative noun which matches with injustice, and oppression is more or like less the same family. And on the downside, because it's a connector. And the last one, we don't need ing shivam. They did not say starting, so we will also not use causing. That is why, and also they are in present tense, so we cannot use affected, it's past. With to, we generally say likely to or liable to, and we have liable, so we'll go with that. Okay. Any other question, anybody? Is it all fine? So as cannot come with ing, that is why B and D cannot be the answers. And the sentence does not have any helping verb or modal, so we need to have that. With, as I said, with as, we need ed form, regarded as. We cannot say this thing is regard as, we'll say this thing is regarded as something. So it should be ed form in second. We'll do that at the end, Vishang. The second one can be said a passive statement, though by here means who made the efforts. The efforts were made by certain population groups. And but yes, we can say it's a passive statement, and that also can be a reason that we are selecting ed form. Thank you so much, Sahan. This really means a lot and a lot. Congratulations. I have been waiting for this result for so long, but okay, so you got it on 30th. Very well done. Thank you so much for making this effort, for coming, for checking. This has given me a lot of more energy. I'm feeling much better now. All the very best for your future. May you get whatever you desire for. May you achieve much more in your life than this just a PTE exam. And hope your purpose of giving the exam gets resolved very soon. And I am very touched from the bottom of my heart for this effort of yours of checking and coming back. This really means a lot. And congratulations once again from all of our side. All the very best for your future. Thank you. Okay. coming back after weekend, getting good results. This has made my day. Thank you so much. Okay, let's start with reorders, and here you have your first question on the screen. Take 2 minutes, put your answer in the chat box, and we have a discussion on this. Okay, let's see the answers. The first sentence, all of you have got correct, which is very good. And it was easy because here we have the name of the war, American Revolution. It's also called the United States War of Independence or American Revolutionary War. So all of these were the names by which 13 of Great Britain's North American colonies won political independence and went on to form the United States of America. So this is the topic. We are going to talk about this war. The second one, a lot of you have done wrong. A lot of you have written D as second. Why is D second? You still have a sentence which is explaining you the war. Whereas D sentence is telling you that first it was a civil war within the British Empire, but then it became international when different countries stepped into. So that is not something which is a primary explanation of the war. The primary explanation of the war was in B, that the war followed more than a decade. The war also is the part of the name of the full name, United States War of Independence, and we just taken one part saying the war. Followed more than a decade of growing estrangement between the British Crown. Here we are explaining what was the war between. It was between the British Crown and a large influential segment of North American colonies. And this was the basic war. If we put D at number 2, then after that you can only talk about international point, international aspect of it, because you introduced that aspect. So that is why we cannot put D at number 2, because then the story should be different. Then the story should be about different countries. Whereas we still have a sentence which is explaining us the basic how and between which groups the war started. So that is why B should come first. And then you can say that till some time it was within the empire, but then it became international. And then you can talk about different countries and what was happening in different countries. That they say until early 1778 it was within the British Empire, but then it became international war because France and Spain also joined. And meanwhile means at the same time. When this was happening at one side, at the other side at the same time, Netherlands was engaged in its own war against Britain. So there was a different war going on with Britain. That's not related to this war, so that will come at the end. The rule that I generally used to discuss for the orders is your first and the second sentences, they always talk about the same topic. Your first sentence will just tell you the brief idea, and the second sentence will explain that brief idea in detail, and only then something new will be added onto. So we said there was a war. I explained what was a war in between, who was fighting. So it was a war between British Crown and North American colonies. And then you give the explanations of how long it went on and what happened in the beginning, what happened at the end. First, at least explain who was fighting, right? So that is why D will come at number 3, because that's kind of additional information, not the primary information of the war. Is it fine now? Jagpreet, is it clear? Good, Kulveer and Anita, good attempt. So here you have your question number 2 for reorders. Take 2 minutes and then post your answers, please. Good, very well done. A lot of you have got it correct. Arshdeep Singh, very well. Time management. And the answer to your question is yes. Okay. Let's see what are the answers. The first sentence, most of you have got it correct. We are talking about Greenland ice sheet. Is a vast body of ice covering roughly 80% of the surface of Greenland. The second one, some of you have done wrong. You have written A as number 2. So always remember the rule, general comes first and specific comes next to it. So general statement is D. It is the second largest ice body in the world. First, you will say that it is large and then you will explain how large it is. You cannot first say that it is this large and that large and then you'll say, okay, it is large. No, you first say it is large and then you give the dimensions that how large it is. That is going into specific details. So first a general statement, it is the second largest ice body in the world. And then how large it is these many kilometers long in this direction and these many kilometers in this direction. And then there's a different topic starting on. They say in the past, sorry, number 4, in the past decades, scientists have drilled ice cores up to 3 kilometers deep and with the ice core. So the means referring. So first we have to introduce ice cores. So here we have talked about introduced ice cores and then we say with the ice cores they have obtained information. This is the use of the ice cores. So this was the answer and well done, many of you. Thank you, Arshdeep. Thank you so much. Very well done, Mandeep. Okay, let's move on to the next question. Number 3, small one. Take 2 minutes and put your answers. Nobody knows the question mark rule. All of you giving me wrong answers. So if you have a question mark in the reorders, then you have to first find out what is the answer of that question. If you do not have the answer to that question, then that question mark sentence should come at the end, not at the first. How will you make a link when you say, what is your name? And then you say, I was studying in class 4, I was 4 years old. Does it make any sense? If you put a question, the next sentence have to have the answer of that question. Otherwise, there is no link possible. The question here was, what factors led to the creation of WTO in the early 1990s? Where have you got the answer to what were the factors? Led to the creation means factors responsible for the creation of WTO. There's no factor given. In C sentence, they said that WTO, that was the first one because we have the full form given. World Trade Organization, WTO, was created in this year as a component of Uruguay round negotiation. No factor given. Where was it created? Only that is given. And in which year? The second one says it could have been. What is the use of could have been? Could have been means something which was possible in the past but did not happen. For example, if I say I could have gone to the party, could have means it was possible, but I did not go. That is the use of could have. Here they are saying that it was created in 1990. There was a possibility that it could have been created in 1970s, but that was just a possibility. Did not get created. Did not get created in that year because it says could have. Could have been negotiated as this Tokyo round of 1970, since that negotiation was an attempt at a constitutional reform of this, but it did not happen in that conference. Or what was the other possibility? One possibility was this. The other possibility is it could have been put off to the future as the US government wanted. This was the other possibility, did not happen, but this was the possibility. Then in the end, you say what factors led to the creation. Then how did it get created? What were the factors which led to its creation? We don't have the answer to any factors given. So whenever you have a question mark in reorders, you have to find the answer to that question. If the answer to the question is not given, the sentence with the question mark will always come at the end, because you don't have anything to link with it. You cannot put anything else apart from the answer in the very next statement. Okay. So this was the answer to this question number 3. Is it fine, Arshdeep? All right. So we are moving on to reading blanks. The first question is on your screens and you have 2 minutes to solve this and then post your answers, please. Okay, let's check the answers. So this says in 1905, modern harpsichord building was begun in Germany, initially taking the new this and this instruments as inspiration. Bit difficult language, but we can understand instruments. So they are talking something about instruments. Dash German building produced a highly characteristic instrument, somewhat reminiscent of the harpsichords of the 18th century Hamburg school in sound. So again, the second understandable word is sound. So it becomes clear that we are talking about sound and instrument. This is the first word. What we have in capitals is subsequent, and we have upcoming. Upcoming means something which is still not done. Upcoming is yet to come. But this has already happened. This is 1905 and this is 18th century. So we cannot say upcoming. Upcoming in any way will mean in going to happen in the future. So it will be subsequent. Subsequent means next German building produced a highly characteristic. And then this person, Arnold, who began the modern dash of the clavichord, working in Paris and Boston as well as in England. So before of, we need a noun, and let's see how many nouns we have. We have revival and we have improvement, and most of you have written improvement, which is wrong. What is the meaning of modern improvement? Is there anything called ancient improvement, historical improvement, or modern improvement? Improvement is improvement. Bit on the context also, but still. So we can go with modern revival because modern is the latest and revival is to get something from the past and kind of modernize it. That is modern revival of the clavichord, but yes, it was confusing. He dashed to be considered the godfather not only of the present British school. So present British school means they're talking about current, so it should be in present tense. What we have in present is he deserves to be or he justifies to be. He's not justifying anything. We are saying that it is right to call him the godfather. So it will be he deserves this thing to be considered the godfather of the present British school of this, but also of the flourishing American school. Most of Dash members are building a very different and far Dash historically based instrument. So we just talked about American school, most of Dash members. Which members? Members of the school. And of the means whose. Whose members means members of the school are building a very different and far Dash historically based instrument. They're making a very different instrument. And what are the word we can use for instrument? It should be far more historically based. Yeah. Far more means it is more based on the historic instrument. So they are making far more historically based instrument. So these are the answers. The first one is subsequent, means because upcoming means yet to happen, but this has already happened. Subsequent means the next one. The second one is revival, because modern improvement. Improvement cannot be classified as ancient improvement or modern improvement. It's better to say revival. Third, he deserves to be, because he has done so much work, so it is right. He deserves to be called the godfather. And then we said godfather of the American school, most of Dash members. So most of the school's members, because we don't have any other members here. So they are talking about members of the school. So we will say most of whose members. Whose members means members of the school are building, they are building, making a very different and far more historically based instrument. Right? We cannot say most of these members. These is used when you have already talked about members. Then we can use these. And most of which members is not possible, because as I said, of the means whose, most of whose members. Yes, in the exam also they will give you capital letters for the first blank. So it's easy to shortlist. Just look at the capital ones when you have to fill the first blank. Right? All good now? So here you have your second question on the screen and you have 2 minutes for this. Please post your answers once you are done. Okay, let's look at the answers. What do cells balance? Why are you selecting balancers? Did you read the complete sentence till full stop? Why have they given you this colon? Whenever they give us hyphen or whenever they give you colon, that means they're explaining what you have to select. So they're explaining the meaning of that word which they want you to select. So cells are the ultimate dash. Now we cannot know out of the earth what are cells. So they are explaining that thing. They can switch on genes and carry dash their orders, talk to each other, divide into, and much more. What is this? These are the things, functions that they perform. So they do so many things. That means they are multitaskers. And carry goes without most of you. No, not most of you. Some of you have selected correct. Carry out means do. Carry on is continue doing. Like we say, carry on the work means continue doing something, that is called carry on. But here you want carry out. Carry out means they perform their orders all at the same time, but they couldn't do dash of these tricks without a power source to generate movement. But they couldn't do any of these, which is right. Means nothing is possible if they don't have a power source. The inside of a cell bustles dash more traffic than the roads. Bustling is a word which means very crowded. We say the market was bustling with visitors. So bustling or bustles, it always goes with the word with. That's the right combination. Bustles with more traffic than the roads. Physics and biologists dash under the hood of the cell. So biologists and physicists are plural. So we need have or are. Can we say they are looking right now? Not possible. So they have looked is better, because are plus ing will mean right now, at this point of time they are doing. So it's better to say they have looked under the hood of the cell and laid out the nuts and bolts of the molecular engines. If we read the complete sentence, we come to know that the work has already been done. So we cannot say are ing. They are not doing it. They have already done it and they have laid out. Means the work is finished. They have done the work, whatever was required. So that is the reason we will select have looked here. So are looking means right now they are doing. That means they should not have reached a conclusion. If the work is still going on, how can we conclude it? But have looked means they have done it and they have laid out. Laid out also is past tense. So if they would be saying laying out here, then you can go with are looking, means they're still doing it. Right, so the first answer was multitaskers based on the explanation that they do a lot of work at the same time. The second one was carry out, because carry out means perform or carry out means do. They do their orders or they perform their orders. That is the meaning of carry out. Carry on is continue. So we are telling the functions. We are not saying that what they have been doing. We say they do this, and they do that. So we want to go with do only, perform only. Third is they couldn't do any of these, whatever we have mentioned, they could not do any of these if they don't have power. Bustle word always comes with the word with, be it any form, bustle, bustles, bustling, all three come with. And because they have used past tense, that means we cannot use ing, and we will also go with they have looked and they have concluded. So that's why it should be have looked and not are looking. Right? Is it clear now? Okay, so you have your question number 3 on the screen. 2 minutes for this and then post your answers, please. Okay, should be done. Taking a lot of time. I've just got 2 answers. Post your answers, rest of you. You cannot take this long. Okay, let's look at the answers. They say recently some members of Dr. Becker's team dashed their discovery of the 4 most distant quasars known. So recently, we did this today. Recently has to be in past tense. So we are talking about human beings. These people dashed their discovery. They have made some discovery and they have announced or declared. What if we discover something, we announce it. We don't declare it. Declare it more is more used with law perspective, and second is it is used with when government declares a national holiday kind of thing. So again, it's by rule or by law, then the word declare is used. But here this is not related to any law or rule, so it will be announced. All the new quasars are terribly faint, a challenge that both teams dash by peering at them through one of the twin Keck telescopes in Hawaii. So they have already discovered the 4 quasars. And now they're explaining that they are terribly faint, they're very faint. And this challenge, obviously the challenge is now finished because they have found them. A challenge that both teams overcame, are facing is not possible because it is past story. So this challenge they overcame by using this telescope. These are the world's largest and can collect the most light. So either we need an adverb, that how can they collect, which we don't have here. Anyways is an adverb, but anyways doesn't fit here. Then we can look for a connector if we don't have an adverb. So they are the world's largest and can therefore is used because of this reason. So whenever you want to say because of this reason, then we use the word therefore. They say they are the world's largest and can because of this reason. What is the reason? Because they are the largest, they can collect the most light. And then they said, however, the 4th and most distant dash any other quasar ever seen showed unmistakable signs of being shrouded in a fog of hydrogen gas. Additional information between 2 commas. So the 4th one, dash any other quasar ever seen, means very different from any other quasar ever seen. It's a very big statement, means it does not match with them. So it will be unlike. Unlike means different from any other quasar ever seen. This gas is leftover material from the Big Bang that did not condense dash stars or quasars. So did not condense, against is one we have a preposition, and did not condense into. So against would won't be the right word. We're not going negative. So we can say did not condense into stars. Condense into means did not result into stars, did not form into stars. So these are the answers. The first one, difference between announced and declared. Declared is used in law perspective, rule, government, and for other things we can use announced. And the challenge is now finished, so that is why we have to go with overcame. They overcame this challenge by using the telescope. And then they said these are the world's largest and can therefore, means because they are the largest, they can collect the most light. And then unlike any other quasar ever seen, simply based on context, that it is different from ever seen any other quasar. And the last one, we only had 2 options, condense into stars or condense against stars. So it's not negative. So we'll go with condense into, means did not form into stars. First, Divita, as I said, declared goes with law, and otherwise we use announced. So declare is when the government declares a public holiday. The government declares some policies, then because it's by law and by rules, so go with declare in that sense. All clear with this? And we have the last question for today, number 4, and you have 2 minutes. Now, therefore can come without a comma as well, Khushi. That's not a rule. Fifth one is not similar. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Can we say, but Big Bang that did not condense similar stars or quasars? They are saying that this hydrogen gas which was there, this is a leftover material. Leftover means it was not used from. And where is it leftover from? It is leftover from the Big Bang, because that gas was not used in the formation of stars. So bit of contextual understanding also will help. This gas is leftover material from the Big Bang that did not condense into stars, means this gas did not turn into stars. So this was a leftover one, right? And the fourth one was unlike, because the sentence says so any other quasar ever seen, means it was not matching with any other thing ever seen. So that is why we'll go with unlike, which means different from. Okay, so the last one, 2 minutes for this, and then post your answers. Okay, let's check the answers. This says the controversy dash genetically modified food continues unabated in the West. So whenever we have the word debate or controversy, the right preposition that we use is always over. Debate over things, controversy over things. Genetic modification is the science by which the genetic material of a plant is altered, dash to make it more resistant to pests or weed killers, or to dash its nutritional value. So I was looking for either because either generally goes with or, but there was no either given. Looking at the options, we only needed additional information because the sentence is complete. They say genetic material is altered to make it more resistant or for this purpose. So we only need additional information, and additional information can come with things like either or we can use connectors. So the right answer was perhaps, which most of you have done wrong. Perhaps means maybe to make it more resistant or to dash its nutritional value. So nutritional value should always be increased. We should never try to decrease it. So what we have to show increase here is enhance its nutritional value. Many food biotechnologists claim that GM will be a major contribution of science to dash in the 21st century. So we are talking about crops, basically about food. So it should be for humans. What we have related to humans is humans and mankind. What is a better word? Mankind. Human is a very general word. We are in science domain, so we'll go with more scientific kind of language. Contribution of science to mankind in the 21st century. On the other hand, large numbers of opponents claim that benefits of GM are a myth propagated by multinational corporations to increase their profits, that they dash a health hazard. So we are in present tense. The sentence is in present tense. So what we have in they here means these crops, genetically modified crops. They dash a health hazard. So we have produce and we have pose. So pose is a word that we use for negative things with the word like threat, danger, risk, and health hazard is also negative. So we'll go with they pose a health hazard. We won't go with produce because produce is related to manufacturing. So the risk is not manufactured, the risk is presented, and pose means present. Right, so these are the answers. Any confusion, anyone? Any doubts in this question? Perhaps means maybe. Vishank. With the word debate or controversy, we always use over. What is it? Sorry. Junaid. Miski. See, it's better to get in touch with the tutors, the other tutors, the lab tutors, or if you are our online student, the online tutors, or maybe if you are facing problem in reading, are you in contact with Neer ma'am or Fazan sir? Because to be very honest, I won't be very much available currently because of still being in the recovery stage. So, but please be in contact with Neer ma'am or Farzan sir for any problems. If you particularly have in reading, they'll be able to help you. Okay, so this was the test that we had to do today, and I hope you would have learned something. This would have been helpful to you. I will be trying to take as many classes as I can in a week. Most probably, I will be taking, but cannot commit. But anyhow, about today's class, I felt really good coming back and taking the class after a while, and I hope the same for you. Please keep attending the classes regularly, no matter who's taking it. It would be very, very helpful to you. It's just the way of teaching that differs. The content remains the same, the resources remain the same, and don't make yourself so rigid, Try and learn and expand your horizons more, be more flexible to things. Okay. So those who don't have any questions or any doubts, that's all for today. Hopefully I will see you tomorrow. Hopefully.